All right, everyone, welcome back. This is the end of the world with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu, and today we are discussing two news items that are not totally related, but maybe we'll find some magical way to thread them together.
Yeah.
To be determined.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one has to do with, let's just jump right in. No funny business.
You don't want to say what the second thing is first? Yeah, let's just
go. We'll do the first one, and then we'll get into the second one. So first one's a bit of news. Big lawsuit against Meta.
Going on for a while now, actually.
It's going on for a while, but
the background is that they actually sued a bunch, right? Is that correct?
All right, so there was a bunch of states that have sued a bunch of social media companies on the grounds that these companies for years have known they were addictive and deleteriously bad for the mental health of young people. And they did nothing to abate this harm and instead hid it.
Wait, saying that social media was addictive?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
I mean, how did this thing not get thrown out of court right away? Let's hear more.
So they're being sued, as I said, for addicting young users and lying about the harmful effects. This was originally a broader suit by the way, there are also many other suits. This is just a big one that we're honing in on for today.
Were there broader in terms
in that it was not just Meta. It was also,
I don't know. I've seen some people like my parents' age, they're hopelessly addicted to the thing.
I'm not saying that that's not the case. I'm just saying the suit was broader in the sense that they were suing more.
I just want to know when Mima's getting her damages.
They're suing a bunch of other companies in addition to Meta, but most of those other companies have reached a settlement of some kind.
Yeah, this is sort of how it came to light.
So Snap, for instance,
last week.
I think Snap, YouTube, which is owned by Google, Alphabet as it's called, these companies, they made a deal, but Meta is out here fighting the good fight alone.
Yeah, I mean, do we have any sense of why they have chosen not to settle at some?
Let me get into the details a little bit more. There are 4 states that are seeking $1.6 trillion in damages from Meta.
Just 1.6.
Yeah. Meta's valuation, market cap is 1.5 trillion. So it's like there's.
Well, now I know whose side I'm on.
Yeah. And the 4 states are California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey. And as I said,
does this mean that if they lost and had to pay all of it, we might lose the metaverse? Well, I mean, I don't.
Horizon Worlds is gone. It's.
I'm on there basically all day, as you well know. I mean, I built a bar in there and everything.
you spent your life savings buying property in the metaverse. This is going to be big. This is the next Bitcoin. So Meta has basically said that this is an exorbitant sum that these companies are seeking. The number, this is a quote from a Reuters story. We'll post the link in the show notes as we always do. The number, which has not previously been disclosed, is close to Meta's market cap. And Meta says,
fuck.
No, they say it's exorbitant compared to all earlier consumer protection sanctions, which seems true, but perhaps, as I put it, the scale of the damage is similarly unprecedented.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I like the idea that it's like, let's just go with precedent. And it's like, actually, you're being accused of
unprecedented
the lives of every child in the world.
A spokesperson for California Attorney General Rob Bonta said in a statement, the lawsuit alleges Meta has prioritized profits over the safety of kids and fueled the mental health crisis we see impacting a generation of American children. The California Department of Justice looks forward to holding Meta fully accountable at trial in August.
I like the idea that in part of their defense, they're like, prioritize profits. Do you know how much money we spent on the metaverse?
So how much money we literally like flushed down the drain.
I like the idea that they knew that it was really addictive, but then they put so much money into the metaverse. They're like, we got to make this up somewhere. Get the teens super addicted.
Yeah. Now I have some reservations. I know you do not, but I'm a little bit older than you. I'm a little closer to Gen X. As we've discussed in a recent episode, I was a bit of a free range.
We're the same age.
I was a free range kid, Michael. I was
that's
biking around the neighborhood.
You were online earlier than me, but yes, we do have some contrasting thoughts here. Let's get into.
But no.
Before we do this, let's just like in terms of the actual case, it basically is stating that children are being taken advantage of in terms of the time they're spending and the mental energy and the mental anguish and the money in some cases.
Yeah.
Right. In order to either keep up whatever appearances that they believe they have to have, or we hear so many terrible stories of kids who, by one version or another, whether it's online bullying or simply
who either end up harming themselves or just suffering terrible eating disorders and other common troubles of young people that are greatly exacerbated, the suit will allege. I think the precedent they're going for is cigarettes, right? They're saying basically you have been dealing digital cigarettes and you knew there were downsides to this.
And now I can see why Meta is worried, because we haven't heard a peep from the cigarette companies in a few decades, right?
What do you mean? Like they all?
No, I'm just like
they all just changed their name and now sell vapes and like
exactly. I'm just saying, like the idea that we're never going to hear from Mark Zuckerberg again if he loses this,
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be okay. I guess I'm always a little wary of won't someone think of the children of it all, And even though I know someone should think of the children, but I also think there is, and this is, now I'm going to sound like Taylor Lorenz, and I like Taylor Lorenz. I think she's a really good reporter. But we pointed out before, she is a bit of a like zero compromises, like everyone should be able to use the phone 19 hours a day. That's fine. Kind of, she has that perspective. And I think that, basically this all plays for me into the idea of children as being kind of parents' property, and like what's being damaged here is like, I think this is just in general a movement we've had in our society where children are sort of seen as property. I think we can see this in the trans stuff. My kid is what I decide.
My kid from having to face a trans athlete,
or if my kid is trans, well, they can do that for themselves. But there's no way I'm getting them any kind of gender affirming care, even if it markedly improves their quality of life. Yes, saves their life. And I think we've also seen the troubled teen industry, which I think is finally on the run a little bit, but this idea of, you got caught smoking pot, so some guys abducted you from your bedroom and took you to a hellish school where you didn't learn anything and were just like doing menial tasks for a year, whatever. And also the last example I'll mention is family blogging. Are you a big family blogging fan, Michael? Michael, are you familiar with family blogging?
I'm familiar, but as you can imagine, I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with it. You?
No, of course not. But I have encountered it, right? And I do find it to be among the most noxious. I mean, it was in the news recently because Jody Hildebrandt and that case in Utah where the family blogger was literally like chaining up her kids if they didn't do the dishes or whatever, keeping your kid from having a bed for a year.
It kind of gets to what I think about it, which is that I don't, in terms of somebody think of the children, like, I guess to me, I think straight up, like this to me feels different than the things that you've
tell me.
Because I do think that the things you've mentioned are more readily identifiable, smaller in scale.
Sure.
And whereas this thing, I mean, first of all, I think it's more difficult to do the kind of case that I would do, which is that everybody should be getting in on this lawsuit. And I don't really, honestly, see that much of a distinction between the impact it's having on kids and the impact it's having on adults. Like it's more profound and more critical and more formative at that age, obviously. But like, I think there's every chance that when it comes to these places, these states filing these suits, that they simply have to focus on children from the type of issues to win something, as opposed to like the idea that like I have a grievance, as though I don't have the capability, apparently, seemingly, to shut it off. and so like that's one thing that I would say is like.
So you're saying that they're focusing on children because that's a good angle, even though the effects are actually as pervasive for adults and for boomers more than anyone. Maybe.
Right, and so like,
I mean, look at Trump. Where did Trump come from?
Right.
It's from exactly
and maybe they have to say won't anyone think of the children, but like. I also do think that we are talking about, you know, in the notes you also wrote, there is this like failure in parenting that runs deep in this country. And I don't disagree with that. But I do think that much like everything else with the internet and social media and then AI, it's a question of scale and exacerbation where there are parents who are failing, but then there are also parents who are fighting against this whole development that they themselves aren't even particularly able to deal with. And then they're trying to help their children in these particular phases of their life. And I have a lot of friends who have kids, and, what I see is first, like fundamentally a battle. Yeah. From the very beginning.
About screen time.
Just a battle. And eventually how much you give up and then more you get, all that. And there's a lot of people out there who will use comparisons of people who grew up like you or people who grew up like me, who did log a significant amount of hours, certainly on a computer, certainly online, even. Certainly
watching TV.
Right. And so, but I think we have to look a little bit at how profoundly different this is.
Sure.
And so like when we talk about the early internet, and there is kind of this romantic at the same time nerdy, weird quality where you start like you find yourself in a contained community and you're getting a comic book published. And there's this degree of anonymity. For example, if you were like shamed on the site, you could start a new profile and like you could express yourself in these ways that weren't tied to your official account, certainly weren't tied to your parents being able to see that account, and on and on and on. And so like the way I sort of look at this is the reason it's so different for me is that I look at it like we built an online life from a place that had been grounded in an offline life. That we got lucky in terms of like having even a decade, to say nothing of a pandemic that forced us onto screens
for school and work.
For these people, for these kids who were in this case at an extremely young age. But again, I would say that like how different it actually felt. And maybe that's partially romanticization, right? But I do think the impact of having to sort of go online, of having a computer in a shared family space for years.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I did a lot of my computing as a kid.
Yes. And then I also wrote in these notes, it's like, and also just a relative lack of power to do anything. I mean, part of the whole thing of being online back then was you were kind of constantly battling with the limitations of the device.
Yeah.
Whether you were trying to see like a raunchy photo and watching
it would take an hour to download. Yeah.
Or like trying to get music or a TV show or whatever thing, or talk to your friends, figure out if your friends were online.
Or like even if you made a friend, but they're 2 towns away, you can't, if you're not 16, you don't have a license or whatever, you can't see them unless you know what I mean? There are all these like the limiting factors that were kind of built in.
And I mean, and then I think about us, the last point I want to make about the long-term impacts of this is that like, for me, the proof is like, it's not just in like, oh, are more kids saying they're depressed? Is it tougher for parents? Which I think is true, but also I think it's a good thing. I think kids were plenty depressed and teenagers were plenty depressed.
But we didn't talk about it.
They report more now, and but again, I still think there is an intensity and exacerbating element of just constant, ceaseless socialization, of being on the thread, of the wire, of anything you can say,
the Discord or the.
I mean, I genuinely can't imagine. Like I think about my anxieties as a kid, and like I was relatively popular, kind of like a popular / annoying kid, kind of like
no way. Stop.
I always like the way I described it is like I feel like I was like one of the like a band with a singer who like you liked their songs, but you quickly would be like, this guy's voice is actually kind of annoying.
So such as when you took over Led Zeppelin, that was the big issue also. I
always use the example of like Our Lady Peace, you know?
I don't remember Our Lady Peace.
Rain Maida. It's a Canadian, yes. But anyways, I just wanted to close it out by
I thought you were going to say God Street Wine, Michael.
You'd like this is the last. I've been going on for too long.
No, it's fine. I think this is interesting.
Which is that like I do think that the proof of how much this needs to be dealt with and how clear it is that like this is a danger is not just in the horror stories that these children are suffering.
Sure.
It's the clear decline in our ability to function as adults in our everyday lives. Like, it's not an exaggeration to just go into a subway and be like, we are all hopelessly addicted to this stuff. I mean, like at least a huge number of us.
Yeah.
So to the point where as adults, the adult thing to do now is to like get a brick.
Yeah.
Like literally buy anti-distraction apps, set screen time limits. I mean, like,
sure.
And really like you start to, if you back up and you're like, this has been years and years of usage now that we're talking about, like, Facebook is what, 07?
No.
Right?
04.
11. But like in terms of, I guess I mean.
Ubiquitous adoption is around 2012.
Yeah, like when I think I remember, like that's the first time I think I remember being like, wait, what
2012
is
is like when your parents got on it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, not your parents, but that's when, you know.
But we've now gone from like, again, like let's say the early 2000s when we started spending more and more time sort of online to the disillusion of the space between online and offline life that now exists.
No, I think that's right.
And like we're all so like messed up. I mean, even in ways that are manageable, even in ways that like we still like, I don't feel like I'm fundamentally depressed, you know, and I'm online all the time.
Sure.
But like,
I still, you know, I'm online all the time too, but I get a lot of stuff that doesn't involve being online done still. I still read a lot of books. I still play like, music.
You know, I think you're way more productive than me in the offline sense.
Well, I also don't have like the same kind of job that you do where you actually have to be online for.
My job's on screens.
Yeah.
But like, it is impossible for me to fathom having this now in my 40s.
Yeah.
And how much it's clearly impacted not my life, my brain, and think about, again, not having any perspective of an offline life and just having this from the ages of like forever through my early teens.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think when you put it like that, this is actually going to tie in a little bit to the second half of our episode.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of an entire generation of people, and these are the people that I'm teaching at college, for instance, you know, who've just always had, even if they had parents that maybe didn't get them a smartphone until they were 10 or 12 or something, it's still, you're always around it. Even if you don't have it, your friend has it. The kid has the thing. It's like when we were kids.
I didn't have a smartphone until I was 27. Oh,
wow. Yeah, I think the same for me, but that was just when they came out. Like, the thing I was going to say to end is like when we were kids, do you remember, did your parents ever have anxieties about watching too much television or playing too much video games and stuff like that? They ever try and curb your enjoyment of these activities?
Yeah, I mean, but they weren't strict, right? So they would say it more than do it.
Yeah.
They were far more insistent. They really had a thing about video game systems.
Sure.
So like we were not allowed Nintendo 64.
You didn't have
like
one.
Eventually, I think, when did they break? I think Dreamcast.
Okay.
Was
It's pretty late. It's pretty late in the game, though. I mean,
it's very late in the game. But then, like, you know, we had.
I got my first Nintendo.
It's funny because they would be
we
like.
had the Nintendo pre-Challenger, Michael. I mean, we had
they
85.
They take over your life. These things are going to take over your life, and we're like, you're so ridiculous. And then we literally like just took our computer, got Championship Manager, which was a text-based soccer management game.
I had a basketball game like that. I loved it.
And we would like stop sleeping.
Oh yeah,
we would just do this
because you like generate whole seasons worth of stats and stuff. And
we played so much. It was like there's no doubt that like it was not a healthy use of my time. And it's just funny to be like, you think your parents are so insane. I remember
my parents tried when I was about 4th grade. So this would have been 91, something like 90, 91. They tried to say like you can only watch 1 hour of TV a day or something.
Impossible. And I mean, a baseball game was 4 hours back then.
Yeah, and it was just, and I was so upset about it. It like honestly, it caused me more upset than almost anything in my life. I mean, at the time, I was pretty volatile. You know, it was like you're like 10. You know, you're
right.
Too smart for your own good, too emotional for your own good. But it's funny to look back on that now and compare that attempt, and this didn't last. I mean, they gave this up very quickly, and plus I got straight A's, and I got, you know, I just did nothing but read all the time. So it was like, oh, you want to read?
I mean, I think the very last thing that I do think goes into what we're about to talk about, right,
please,
is that the case. Forget about the money and like, I mean, obviously these people should be given something if it's found to be the case and all of that. But really, I think what we run up against with these types of things is like the actual impossibility of really changing these things truly for the better when they are built on an attention and advertising model. It's like this, we're talking about
our economy is built on this now, right?
We can't, like, our kids, in order to function from an economic stance and continue somehow the dream of eternal American economic growth that both you and I hold so dear.
Sure, yes.
Right? Is to get addicted to this type of thing. Like, whether or not it's actually just your phone. I mean, the whole basis of the way that our system of exchange works has become you constantly pay attention to things until you purchase accordingly. And I don't see a lawsuit that's coming for that anytime soon.
Yeah, no, that's well said. So the second half of the episode will be devoted to this essay that's called A Thesis on the 21st Century. It's by Mathias Fuelling, and
it was good. Do you know anything about him?
No, I actually don't. I meant to look him up. I think he's an academic. I think he's a fellow somewhere. And
he's a PhD candidate at Temple.
Okay, he's at Temple. So is he presumably younger guy?
He's writing a dissertation on economic planning in Czechoslovakia in the 1940s. So he's in the weeds.
Yeah, he's a little bit Adam. That's a little Adam Tooze adjacent. That feels a little bit Tooze to me.
I really liked this though.
This is a great essay. I mean, this is one of the best essays I've read in a while, and it's called, as I said, thesis. A thesis on the history of the 21st century, technocracy, AI, and the end of the world. So I came across this and sent it to a bunch of friends. I sent it to you a couple weeks ago, but you know, I thought we should cover this, and here we are. Sent a few other friends who read it, thought it was great, and he's looking at 3 recent tomes, 3 recent books that have come out, all co-authored, which I thought was interesting. So is that the real problem? Co-authorship? Is that what you and I are not writing a book together? Michael and Stu.
Well, not yet. I'm sure we'll get there.
Deleuze and Guattari. I'm watching. You guys better not come back from the dead and write another book.
I do also want to just mention the quote off the top.
I was going to get to that. Please, you can read it.
And I think this is an interesting. This is not quite what the article's about, but in terms of tying the two things in, I do think it is interesting. Like, who are our enemies? Who are our friends? Right. This is a question of the first importance for the revolution. You'll never guess who said that. Do you have any ideas, Stu?
Well, I can see it. Right. I mean, I transcribed it earlier. So in fact, it's Mao Zedong said that.
It is this to me is kind of like I got a lot of this from the article, having started by looking at the meta stuff, right?
Yeah.
But like in terms of the picture of the people that we're about to talk about a little bit. So think of the last Google ad you saw, or the last Facebook or Meta ad, right? All of these things, all of these people who were in charge, right? The image they present publicly is one of sort of antagonism now. Like, we don't like them, generally speaking. Most people who are of our persuasion, at least, are like, oh, the Musks of this world are brutal, right?
Yeah.
But they are our friends in the sense that we spend more time with them and with what they have built than anyone else in our lives, basically.
It's a grim thought, so, but yeah.
It is, but so it's like, it's there, you know, and maybe it's a great example for how stuck we are, where like, we can say they're our enemies, but we are more dependent on them for the things that we do on a daily basis than maybe ever, right?
Yeah.
At least in our lifetime, in terms of the direct connection between our daily life and this clear group of identifiable people who are outside of the state structure.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. So the first of the three books, we'll go briefly over the three books and what Fuelling has to say about it. He's the first book is familiar to our listeners if you've been with us for a while. That is Abundance by Ezra, Klein, and Derek Thompson. And we did an episode on that. I'll put a link in the show notes to the...
I now think we were harsh. I reread it since, and it's pretty much how I feel. But
I was looking at the transcript earlier, and I was like... we could have been a little harsher, actually. It was more my takeaway.
Yes.
That was our episode 62 from last April 25. A Dry Voice Comes from a Stingy Heart is the title. Very poetical title. We hated it at the time. We saw it as a naive repackaging of neoliberal ideas. And I'm happy to say that Mathias Fuelling agrees. So that's good.
I'd say he takes it a step further.
Yeah, no, he takes it down in a really nice way. The next book is The Technological Republic: Hard Power, Soft Belief, and the Future of the West by Alex Karp and Nicholas W. Zamiska. Now, we haven't done a full Palantir ep, but we've certainly talked about Alex Karp.
I think we should do the book.
I'm afraid so. Not right away. Not right away, but we're going to get to it. Yeah. And we haven't talked about Nicholas Zamiska before. He is the head of corporate affairs and legal counsel to the Office of the Chief Executive Officer at Palantir.
Just to think about like the fortnight of negotiations that landed with that title.
It sort of makes it seem like he's some kind of factotum to Karp. Like he's his special, he's his office's special lawyer, but he's also like a policy guy for the.
Are you Alex Karp? Secretary? I mean, it's okay. It's okay.
Now, we've never talked about Nick before, but happily enough, I did go to college with him. So I do know him. And in fact, we were sometimes confused for one another because we both have sort of physically. Yeah. People would think I've had friends say they thought I was him and he was me because we both have kind of reddish hair. And, he is sort of my Polish-American lawyer doppelganger, and I'm sad to report that he is apparently evil.
Sure.
He always seemed really nice. I always had positive interactions with him. He's kind of a fun guy. You'd see him at parties, having a good time. Smart guy.
I mean, too, just to be clear, you don't become the head of corporate affairs and legal counsel to the office of anything if you're not a nice guy. You know? You can't wow me at a party. You're not going to get 14 words in your title. Yeah,
that's the 14 words, maybe. All things are possible with Yale, however. So he went back to Yale, did his law degree there as well. And now he works for Palantir, which is, may God bless him. But the book sounds like complete.
Great. I swear, you don't want to do it for a while, but I'll be pushing in the background. It sounds amazing.
Yeah. He says from the Fuellings, I haven't read the book obviously yet, but we will. Fuelling's article says that the book is about how Silicon Valley I'm sorry, should devote itself to the task of American greatness.
I love so much that I should finally devote itself to the task of American greatness. What has it been doing?
Instead of focusing on trifles like social media, delivery apps, commerce, these sort of inconsequential, sweet nothings compared to the real meat of reality, which is, of course, American greatness. Right. He says, there's a quote here from the article, Silicon Valley must be at the forefront of resurgent American nationalism, while the U.S. government must move to embrace Silicon Valley companies and bring them directly into the fold of government infrastructure. So,
if I can stop you right there,
please.
That is probably my actual worst nightmare. Like from top to bottom, that's one of the worst ideas in sentence form that I have ever heard.
Yeah, and I mean, we've already seen, as the article will say later, we've seen a preview of how this might go with the whole Doge Elon experiment.
Yeah, and we've seen a preview of it because it is already doing this in so many ways.
It's already happening.
Which makes this book's thesis so ridiculous and frightening. The idea that these people think that in fact has been a huge part of the problem so far is that it's not been doing that. And now we have, which is, it's clearly just code for like, we need to be a fascist technocracy. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's where it's going. It's a Peter Thiel style culture war screed about the evils of greed. Ironically, that seems odd.
Sure.
DEI.
The second most evil thing. So there's greed, and then coming in second, as we know, is DEI. Like what?
Then after that, it is multiculturalism, right?
Sure.
We all dread that. And it's all reheated bullshit from like Alan Bloom's The Closing of the American Mind from almost 40 years ago. The only thing that's different, however, is it suggests the logical solution to all of this, which is to recenter the American economy entirely around weapons manufacturing.
I just love this so much. I love like that these exact people have managed to have such a complete and utter and absurd hatred for things like DEI and multiculturalism while creating tools that are ostensibly designed to like bring everyone together in real time across the entire planet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a little bit of right. It's like, I hate connectivity. I hate when different people come together. By the way, here is my platform that everyone on the world must join.
Yes, exactly. I did want to say before you go on, because there's some good stuff coming here, but like going back to the attention and advertising based economies, like one of the reasons I do want to read it, and I'm not sure if you saw anything. I mean, I have my assumptions, but like when they start talking about this type of nationalism and weapons manufacturing and all of that, and they call something like social media like a trifle, right?
Sure.
Are they in their like desire to like make America great again? Are they targeting the attention and advertising based economies that have like made the people apparently right? So
I'm sure they'll just redirect those to like recruit slaves for the missile factory.
So somehow it would become, instead of
it'll just be like a silo
laziness
that will point people towards their approved ends and aims.
So the exact same thing that's created the mess is going to solve the problem.
It's a governance. It's a cybernetic governance issue. We just need to have the feedback redirected towards making more bazookas.
Now that you've said that, it turns out that we might really actually be dealing with the smartest people in the history of the world.
So he links, Fuelling links the technological republic and abundance, saying both abundance and the technological republic recognize a common structural problem in the modern United States, the bifurcation between the ability of the government to actually govern and the indispensability of private technology companies, despite their massive government subsidies to the infrastructure of our daily lives. Which I think is really interesting because we didn't rehash abundance because we already did a whole episode about it, but this structural problem, right? It's like the government can't get anything done. In abundance, there's too much red tape. There's too many stupid regulations. We can't get houses. We can't build the super fast trains. We can't build right? And all this needs to be trimmed out. And it's a technocratic book. In the case of the technological republic, they don't care about building fast trains, or they care about building more weapons faster, presumably, so that we can nuke China or whatever. But it's
which again is such a fundamental misunderstanding of like the state of modern warfare. Like, but I just want to briefly mention, because I do think this is an important point to bring up right here, which is that, like, you know, the bifurcation between the ability of the government to actually govern and the indispensability of private technology companies to the infrastructure of our daily lives. And while, like, I think that this is bang on, right? Yeah. I think it also speaks to the incredible scale and unfortunately, in many ways, the hopelessness of the problem, right? Oh, yeah. And what I mean by that is, like, I remember when I was very young, I do want to bring up this, I think this is kind of applies here. So I remember when I was very young, and like I would see, whether it was parents or the parents like of my friends, like struggling with work or not wanting to go to work, and seeing that, or complaining about a boss and whatever, right? And then my early forays into labor, which I've, you know, were not easy, right? Because I was confronted with something that felt very simple. And now it's like, obviously it's simplistic, but I do think there's a point to be made, which is that, like, the things that you would learn about democracy and civics and decision making
in school, as a for instance,
you would then never see reflected in a workplace in any conceivable way. And so on the one hand, you want people, especially the other one, the Technological Republic book, that wants these patriots, that want these nationalists, that presumably, and he gets into it later about how disingenuous it is, would then somehow apply to also the greatness of American democracy. We can't lose that from propaganda perspective. But I remember thinking, as like when I was younger, that like if like this, I didn't think this when I was a child, but like when I was like a teen, I remember thinking, like, if government cannot control business, then it has to be the business that will control government, right? Like that eventually the structures that make up businesses will be the ones that are reflected in government.
Well, we've seen this in some of the post-apocalyptic literature we've looked at, right? Absolutely. Octavia Butler, for instance.
Precisely because it's the infrastructure of our daily lives.
That's right.
It is what we interact with all the time. And like,
well, it's the natural end game of privatization and neoliberalism.
Right. So like a great example would be, you know, one of the very first jokes I ever did when I was doing stand-up back in like the early, like years and years ago, was just this joke about how if someone just wanted to be president, they would just run on a 4-day week, right? Yeah. And how like white people's biggest problem is Monday. Did I ever tell you this joke?
Yeah, no,
like I remember one in the polls. You ask what they hate the most, the answer comes back time and time again. It's Monday. But like imagine going into your work and just being like, so we took a vote and we're not going to come in on Monday anymore. It's going to be Tuesday to Friday type deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, again, it's simplistic, it's basic, but it does present the very real problem between democracy and the type of corporate structure we have.
No, I mean, I mean, what you're talking about essentially is the difference between capitalism and communism, right?
Well, sure.
I mean, a system of government where
people, whether it's abundance or technological republic, they still like feign that we would be some sort of
democracy,
democratically governed. Yeah.
Right. But this is what I'm saying. Like, democracy is incompatible with capitalism, right?
That's right.
Unless you have a democratic communism. Yeah. Right. Which is, I mean, just the idea of the workers owning the means of production. There are no Alex Karps. There are no Nicholas Zamiskas, right? Right. So let's just keep going with the article. The key thing for both abundance and the technological republic is AI.
Sure.
We must defeat AI. And not even defeat AI. We must defeat China in getting to the best AI, the fastest, because this will determine who retains global hegemony for the next century and possibly for every century thereafter, right? If we're to believe some of these promises.
AI has hegemony, right?
Well, we'll talk about that. As
AI, God willing.
as Fuelling Riley notes, the irony to this is that both works also entail a vision of revamping America that would make it look similar to contemporary China. So he points out, and this is something I've talked about a lot at various radical meetings that I've gone to, is that the difference between America and its listlessness and China, which seems to, despite difficulties at times, still have a solid drive towards progress, is the Chinese Communist Party, right? That there is an elite technocratic group. It's large. It's not 15 people. It's presumably thousands and thousands and maybe millions of people. I forget how large it is at the moment, but there's a lot of people in the party. But they act as a kind of governing body that adjusts in a cybernetic structure the flows of information and the outputs of, energy for the entire system over many years, right? They have the so-called 5-year plans. 5-year plans are not rigid. They're flexible. There's different, and that this is, they meet every few years. They set the next 5-year plans, and really it has a 10-year plan, because then there's what we'll do after, and then that's subject to revision. We do not have a central governing body like that in the United States. We have instead...
But we do have a guy who says what he needs to do to help the markets close and open strong. So
that's not at all short-term oriented, though, as we know. So he goes on to say, the central irony of these books, then, is that they want all of the benefits of the Chinese Communist Party rule, but they don't want any of the actual political work necessary for them, right?
I think that's exactly right. I do think that despite the hopeful tone of abundance, and then whatever garbage I'm sure is in the Karp.
Well, the fascists. It's fascism, right? It's techno-fascism.
Yes, is at first it's like, my guess is the Karp book is slightly more honest in a way, but I do think that they both.
It's honest, but it's no less delusional.
Of course.
Yeah.
It to me, they are both like defeatist in terms of basically exactly saying that, well, really the only hope is we start to get the benefits of the Chinese Communist Party, but so we don't even have time to do the work.
We're just going to make Silicon Valley that. That's right. They both basically say that, right?
Right.
Also, given the total antipathy of wealthy classes in this country to anything in resembling a Marxist-Leninist Maoist ideology, Fuelling writes that this would require the creation of a true fascist force in American life. That both abundance and the technological republic imply the rise of a kind of fascist class. Now, in technological republic, these people are called engineers, and they're fetishized. In abundance, they're more of these government bureaucrats who oversee but at the core, it's the same. He says the fusion of Silicon Valley and the U.S. government, absent a strict organizing cross-institutional force along the lines of something like the CCP, would entail the creation of a true fascist force. Capitalist interests would join with nationalist ideology infused with the new eugenics that dominates the intellectual atmosphere of the tech elite, aiming to preserve American global dominance and promote a renewed mobilization of the domestic population.
And I think this is not only, I think, bang on from the writer. I also think that this is overwhelmingly, unfortunately, the most likely outcome for the near future of American politics and society. Because the way that I come away from the piece is that just as American liberalism in our entire lifetime has, ironically, built decades worth of support for things like weapons manufacturing.
Yeah.
Right? And the wars that we have seen unfold in the name of this country. Abundance is like this perfect evolution of that, where you can see from even just this article, but having read Abundance, you can see how they will make sort of unlikely bedfellows with these fascists.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it right in front of you.
I
like,
mean, and
say what you want. They do build stuff there, like that type of garbage.
Well, and I mean, I think with the support amongst democratic elites for the ongoing genocide in Gaza and the Israeli project of colonialism is a kind of embodiment of this as well.
Yes, but the beauty of the abundance thing is it pays
completely ignores all of this, right?
I mean, like it pays the lip service to like, actually, we do, you know what? We've listened, we've learned, and things just have to get better for the working class. Here's how. Magic.
That's really well said. So I think Fuelling then turns to the role that we've also frequently discussed about the role that AI plays in all of this, which is that it's essentially a cop-out mechanism to get around the thorny political dilemmas of the distribution of wealth and power. There's income inequality. Don't worry. AGI is coming, and that will just make sure everyone has enough bread to eat.
What was the great tweet I saw? It was like Elon Musk was like, by 2036, you won't have to worry about money. And the tweet was like, guy who hoards all the socks. You don't have to even think about socks.
Yeah.
I forget who said that, but it's so good.
And like the other big problem that isn't really addressed in either of these books effectively is, of course, climate change, right? That these technologies are in fact abetting what is already a death drive towards the undermining of the entire global economy on which our existence as a species and the other species on the planet depends, right?
This is like
but don't worry, Michael, AI is going to solve that. AI solves that.
That's right. Like we talked a lot about this in the AI episodes that we have done, but I think in here it's particularly worth noting that like the beauty of the AI con is that it can become a major factor in the destruction of people's livelihoods and environments and ecological systems, all while everybody involved in it is like, but then
it's going to
solve all those things.
Well, that's the thing. I think this article doesn't.
That AI, once it really figures itself out, it's not going to be able to desalinize and we'll just have as much water as we need forever. Why would you think that? That's insane.
Well, I think that ties in nicely with your line about magic from a few seconds ago, right? And that AI serves this both utopian and apocalyptic double purpose, right? And that in both cases, it can cause the end of the world. It can cause utopia. These are just weirdly marketing ideas for the power of AI.
It's also when you think about it, it's also just an echo or like an exponential growth of the same mentality with which, if we're being honest, most of us have lived our lives in this era, which is this feeling of doom and that none of this can actually hold and we're using too much and that things are falling apart, with this kind of, honestly, like that is the thing you kind of tuck away as you go about your day.
Yeah.
Your day, you're kind of engaged with the very idea of utopianism that you recognize is probably leading to like economic and ecological calamity. And you're doing it every day. You're ordering seamless. You like all these little things. It's not like, it's not about the individual responsibility in any single act. It's that we engage in that same game all the time.
Absolutely.
And so it's easier to allow it and normalize it and see it come about now again in AI,
Yeah. So the last book he talks about is a book we haven't read and that just looks like such dog shit.
This one I will not. I can't.
Yeah, I can't either. It's by a guy who's just really odious and another guy who's also probably pretty bad. If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies by Eliezer, Yudkowsky, and Nate Soares. This book, however, warns us in the most tiresome manner imaginable the apocalyptic dangers of AI, right? This is the Rocco's Basilisk. We create the... I have no mouth, but I must scream. This old Skynet, all the negative fantasies of AI that have existed for 60 plus years in sci-fi literature. These are people that believe that all of them are real and they're going to be here soon. So we better give them some money so they can prevent it or whatever. He makes a really good point.
Better give it some money to make it even bigger so we get closer to it happening, but we definitely win in the end.
Yeah, we don't go over that last line. He makes a nice point that they all believe that LLMs, when they get sufficiently complex, there's going to be this kind of spontaneous morphing from ChatGPT or Claude or whoever will become a Skynet-like diabolical demiurge. He says Yudkowsky and Soares operate under the principle that the true intelligence will somehow spontaneously develop within an LLM system, the larger, more complex it gets. The tipping point, Gladwell, measured in potential GPUs, right? Graphic processing units, which are like the however many, you get enough of those chips and cards together, you can power this God AI, basically. But then he says, but if complexity is seen as a marker of the formation of intelligence, not to wade into the troubled waters of delineating their use of intelligence from consciousness as such, why isn't any given complex system intelligent, such as, say, a forest or a city or the earth itself, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, think of how complex a city is, or how complex the earth is, or how complex any given ecological system. Why doesn't intelligence just spontaneously arise there? Oh, well, it doesn't, for whatever reason. So it's kind of the same thing to imagine that this group of numbers is going to have intelligence arise spontaneously. Yet every claim of AI apocalypse is a reverse form of the claim of AI utopianism, that AI is a world-changing technology. When we talk about AI, we must be careful to parse and distinguish it as mostly being a marketing term, right?
Yeah.
And then just one more quote here. What happens when AI systems are feeding on the data that is majority or only AI produced, in turn fed on earlier AI produced data? Well then, with people more and more dependent on using AI as our sole source of intelligence and cultural production, eventually only AI content exist? Society would be caught in a feedback loop of AI production, with AI breaking down into potentially frightening iterations as it produces only earlier versions of itself. We would end up in a world where all culture is dead, where nothing new is being created. AI then becomes a system for feeding on the dead. Really like this. This really ties in with my own biggest prognosis about where these LLMs, which are constantly cannibalizing any piece of literature, any piece of text they can get their hands on, right? That eventually this leads to a point, and I think this is true of our Instagram feeds too, right? For instance, just to tie it back into social media, we're going to get to a point when like all you see on Instagram is AI generated material. Yep. Right. Well, there will be no actual photographs taken by humans of humans. It'll all be ideas.
I was talking to my friend today. I forget what we were looking up, but it was like something very basic, like different places that we could go kayaking. I think it was like upstate New England. And he's like, he raised this interesting point where he's like, you can't trust any review anymore.
No.
Like, even though you couldn't really before, you like have no clue who is telling you any of this information.
Right.
But the thing I wanted to say about that quote, which I think is great, is that like, I think, again, like putting this much emphasis on AI and what is going to happen because of AI, what he's saying makes more sense than the con that we're hearing. But I think it's also important to just like remember like how much of what he's describing we've already shown very capable of doing ourselves now that we have created our own feedback loops with internet technologies and social media.
And this ties in with what we were talking about at the top of the episode, right? The idea that we don't even need AI to drive ourselves insane with social media.
Yeah, it's like it's obviously makes it worse, And
I mean, to quote Dave Matthews, we've been driven to distraction by the rise of these technologies.
We would end up in a world where all culture is dead and where nothing new is being created. And you're like,
well, this already feels like Mark Fisher, right? Like,
okay, well, I'm off to see Fast and Furious 21, but thank God everything is thriving.
The foreclosure of the future, right?
And I think that like basically sums up kind of what I've been thinking about since reading this piece is that how much of that era from the mid 90s through till AI sort of coming into those algorithmic spaces and starting to actually present itself, how much of the groundwork like we managed to lay, and the things that are about to become normalized, how important that time actually was to allowing those things. And that goes from a simple thing like, is it really going to be tough when they really do turn this into like a fascistic weapons manufacturing concern? What do you think we've been the whole time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't actually like a huge departure.
It's not a big leap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then most people won't even notice the difference because their lives will proceed unchanged. Either narcotized by their social media bubbles.
But maybe if you're of the right age with $1.6 trillion in the bank.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I would say is that I agree with what you've just said completely. But, you start to notice this more and more when you're around younger people, which is that the very idea of making a creative gesture, whether it's writing your own thoughts on a book or writing your own thoughts or making a work of art, coming up with your own idea for a work of art or something like that. And like AI, we've been told that like AI is going to be unlocking your creativity. There's a lot of it is, you have an idea, just type in the prompt and your drawing is there, your design is there.
Or even better, your app.
Stu. Yeah, well, exactly. All of these things that AI can just do with just the mere suggestion outlined from you, right? And then I think what this ends up doing is just it erodes the capacity for thought and for creativity, which like if left, and I mean, yes, we all are spending way too many hours on social media and all these other things. But, as I said, like I still make time. And the reason I'm able to do this probably is because I grew up in a time before all this shit existed, right?
Maybe.
But I mean, there are young people that are still able to do this too,
yes,
and
absolutely.
It hasn't completely. Yeah,
I do think that it erodes the capacity, and I think that it also erodes the motivation, like the actual
right. Like,
desire.
why would I try to do something when AI can do it in 1/10 the time, and it'll be better,
but not even
be perceived as being better.
Not even caring to have that thought,
that ambition.
That's because, and this goes back to all the groundwork that I'm talking about. That goes way beyond the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, we're talking about a situation where the valorization of labor, money, and profit for profit's sake has been not just in our lifetime, right? It's been like one of the defining elements of American and capitalist life. And when you then add onto it these technologies, then you add the algorithms, then you add AI. It's like it's no surprise.
Well, they all serve a like feedback loop, self-reinforcing.
Right.
There's a mechanism of
like, It's not even like there are people who don't even think that something has been lost, right? Like,
well, it's easier to imagine the end of the world and the end of capitalism, right? I mean,
that's right.
The Jameson, Fisher, we come back to this point a lot, but we do because it's a good point, right? And so I think this essay is just excellent. It's not very long. We haven't. No,
I mean we did cover most of it, but
there's a bunch of other stuff in there that we didn't have time for. I
recommend it to everybody for sure.
Yeah, it's from Cosmonaut magazine.
The one thing we didn't say that I know we're supposed to be done, but I do think is really important about sort of how scary all of this is. And you mentioned it briefly, but like the idea that the Doge of it all is this really obtuse trial run for the sophisticated
that this is like level. This is a first that we're going to see something that's actually competent. Trying to do something similar. It's
almost like first is farce, then is tragedy.
Yeah. Well said. That's sort of what I was searching for. Nicely said. All right. Well, let's leave it there for now. We will definitely revisit these themes and probably one of these books sometime in the
until we're no longer allowed.
Yeah, until we've been removed from the server. But we haven't picked what we're going to talk about next week. Probably a movie or something a little later. But this was fun.
Well, we'll tease it out in the
we'll tease it out as we always do in the reels, and maybe post some vague cryptic allusions to it. But until then, if you like the show, you can follow us on the podcatcher of your choice. If you really like it, you can leave us a rating and or review on that podcatcher. We always appreciate ratings and reviews. You can also follow us on Instagram at The End of the World WMS, where we post exciting reels from the show. So yeah, we'll post links, as I said, to both these articles, and encourage you especially to read the Mathias Fuelling piece. Really excellent. One of my favorite things we've actually read for the show. And until next time, this has been The End of the World with Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu. And we'll talk to you real soon.